Perth. Thank you very much for coming. It's lovely to see such a turnout, and I think it's a testament to how important and dear to our hearts actually achieving independence for Scotland is, and all the benefits that that can get for us. Tonight's theme is Equalities, and I'm looking forward tremendously to hearing from Anne-Marie Ward. Anne-Marie has quite a CV. She's part of Faces and Voices of Recovery, a group known as FAVOR, and that's to promote the positive side of people who are on the road to recovery, and that's essential, I think. There's such a stigma for people who've experienced this, but we've got to have help, and actually for people who've recovered to get over that is heroic. It really is heroic, and it's in all our benefit when they can make that journey. She also has been, is it fair to say, a thorn in the side of the establishment, chastising them, encouraging them, shaming them into making it a right to recovery and producing the bill or getting the bill, the right to recovery bill, before the Parliament. And that's essential too. I don't know if I've introduced myself, but my name is Sally Hughes, and I was a police officer for 25 years in this area. I retired, it's coming up for 3 years ago. Addicts and the chaotic lifestyle that goes with that, it's hugely resource intensive for all our public resources. And if I can give you an example of my previous work as a beat officer, when I started in Perth, we would get the intelligence that there was drug stealing at a house in the scheme and all the antisocial behaviour that flowed from that. If we had enough time, we would collate that intelligence and write a long-winded report to create a warrant to then go into that house and try and recover the drugs. Right, that warrant could be activated within 21 days of achieving it. But it took 2 or 3 days to tee up a meeting with a sheriff to get the warrant. So again, that's juggling that with all your other calls was quite labour intensive and not a quick thing that you can do. Once you had the resources, once you had the warrant in hand, you then had to look at the schedule of when there would be actually physically enough police officers to force the door safely, to restrain anybody and everybody in the house so that you could search them in a controlled manner, and then to search the house when those people weren't there, or well, one person would be there as a representative. There's not a labour light way of doing that. You needed at least 6 to 10 police officers to do that, and that's before you even talk about arresting someone. And I remember in Old Newton, prior to it being knocked down and rebuilt, going into a house there, a very well-known family, and we did all that and we'd recover basically a bit of personal drugs that they were using. 20 years later, we were doing exactly the same thing, only it was the younger cops going through that and doing that, and this time it was the children of the people that I had been going through, and if they were lucky, they would get enough drugs recovered that hadn't been flushed down the toilet, a bit of personal drugs use, and they'd say, well, and we would all say, well, that justifies the warrant, and say we got something. It disrupted them momentarily in that lifestyle, but it achieved nothing in the great scheme of things. So I'm really looking forward to hearing alternative things that happen in other countries that deal with this in a much more sensible, perhaps even holistic way. Another example I can give you from personal experience is lads injecting heroin down the town. We went and caught the lad and he had 10-pound wrap of heroin on him. So that's two cops. We took him to the police station to search him properly. So he's booked in at the charge bar, and that's an hour's procedure if there's not a queue, and then another hour to get the search done, and then another hour to the release. Now that was half your shift. for 2 cops, and you think, well, that's your job, and it was not complaining about that, but that was a quarter of the shift that day on the early shift for Perth City, right? So it's hugely resource intensive for a lad who was a heroin addict and who took a tenner bag 2-3 times a day, every day, right? And had no chance really of coming off drugs, right? And I grew up as a teenager in the Thatcher years. I was a school child during the Thatcher years when there was no jobs. And as I progressed in the police, it just time-wise, I didn't get promoted, but as I progressed through that, the thing that changed was jobs. When we got our own parliament in '99, within 2 or 3 years in this area, house prices had doubled and jobs had started to percolate through. When Alex Salmon got into power in 2011, jobs, 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 and I'll evidence that with this. Metal thefts were going through the roof because the world economy was booming, but at the same time we'd had the austerity hit us big time from Westminster. Right? But I was tasked with going around the engineering firms and giving them crime prevention advice about the metal thefts. And I said, how's business going? Because I always used to ask that of businesses. Actually, they said, we're doing all right. And the reason we're doing all right is the South Queensferry Bridge being built. That was such a huge infrastructure build that it kept all the businesses, even as far away as Perth, going, and they didn't suffer business loss, business closure, unemployment. I wish I could say the same now, but with Brexit hitting and starting to squeeze, and we've only just started to feel it squeeze, I really fear that we're going to go into a time that makes the Thatcher years look like a teddy bear picnic. So we need to work as a team. We need to achieve independence as a matter of urgency. We need to explore alternative ways of doing things when the traditional method hasn't really worked. The war on drugs, I think we need to face facts that that's the wrong terminology and it's not working. And it's such a huge waste of resources. So that's the first thing. And the second is EVA. Now I kind of have a bit of chronic fatigue that goes on and running on empty, and there's been a couple of times I've been away to go to marches for independence and I've really been feeling sorry for myself. But Eva's been there, and Eva describes herself as the bionic woman and has made huge use in need of the National Health Service now. So she's a battler, she doesn't give up, we are very lucky to have her, and a few times now it's a kind of drag myself to things because I know she's been there and it's like, well, she can do it, I can do it too. And my God, we really, really need battlers. We're just at that stage now, we've got to get independence over the line, no more messing, no more, let's frighten the horses, that's what I say. So, and the last thing I'd like to say before we get on with the meat of this meeting is Patsy Stewart Hilton is going to treat us to one of her father's poems. And his name was John Stewart, sometimes known as Jock Stewart, and he was a piper to trade. And if you're an old folkie like myself, then you'll know that song. He was a top-notch piper, and I'm quite sure his poem is of the same calibre. So, and to keep us all in order is David Greenlees. He's the chair tonight. And we'll be handing over to David after Patsy's given us this poem. So Patsy, would you like to come up? Yes.